Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what you're about to hear could completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car, or maybe even your pocket right now. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and today we're talking about one of the most extraordinary examples of that. A coin so seemingly ordinary, so easily overlooked, that millions of people have spent it without a second glance. We're talking about the 1968 D1 dime, a tiny 10-cent piece from the Denver Mint. And before this script is over, you're going to understand exactly why certain versions of this coin have been valued at a jaw-dropping, almost unbelievable $139 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $139 million for a dime. And before we dive deep into everything that makes this coin so extraordinary, I want you to stay locked in until the very end of today's video because we have another coin coming up after this one. A coin with a story so shocking, so wrapped in mystery and minting error, that even seasoned numismatists have described it as one of the most unsettling discoveries in American coin collecting history. I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet, and I'm definitely not going to tell you what it's worth, but I promise you this, if the 1968 D-Dime make your jaw drop, what comes next will leave you completely speechless. So stay right here. Don't go anywhere. Let's start at the beginning. The year is 1968. America is in the middle of one of the most turbulent decades in its modern history. The Vietnam War is at its peak. The civil rights movement is reshaping the nation, and the United States Mint is quietly producing hundreds of millions of coins to keep up with the demands of everyday commerce. The Denver Mint, marked by that small but significant D mint mark, was responsible for striking a massive volume of Roosevelt dimes that year. Coins that were designed to be used and forgotten, passed from hand to hand, spending their entire existence as a simple 10-cent piece. But something happened inside that mint that year. Something that the workers may not have even noticed. Something that slipped through quality control and found its way into the hands of ordinary Americans. And that something turned a common 10-cent coin into one of the most sought-after treasures in American numismatic history. To truly understand the value of the 1968 D-Dime, you have to understand what the coin collecting world looks for when it evaluates a coin's worth. It's not just about age, though age certainly matters. It's not just about rarity, though that plays a massive role. It's about the perfect storm of factors: condition, error, provenance, historical context, and the almost mythological quality that certain coins develop over decades of being whispered about in collector circles. The 1968 D-Dime carries all of these qualities in spades, and the most valuable versions of this coin are the ones that emerge from the mint with a specific, extraordinary error that collectors have chased for decades. One of the most significant and valuable varieties of the 1968 D-Dime involves what is known in the numismatic world as a proof striking on a business strike planchet, or in some reported cases, an obverse die cap error combined with a dramatic strike-through that left portions of the design either missing, doubled, or bizarrely overlapped. Errors like these are the result of mechanical chaos inside the minting process, moments where the dies misalign, where a coin gets struck twice, where a foreign object gets caught between the die and the planchet, or where the coin simply doesn't receive the proper impression it should have. These coins are accidents. They were never meant to exist. And because they were never meant to exist, they exist in incredibly small numbers, sometimes only a handful of confirmed specimens in the entire world. That scarcity, combined with the collector frenzy that surrounds them, is exactly what drives their value into the stratosphere. Now, let's paint a picture. Imagine a factory floor in Denver, Colorado in 1968. The machines are running at full speed, pressing thousands of coins per hour. A worker notices something slightly off about a batch coming through the line, but the pressure to keep production moving is immense, and the anomaly gets waved through. Those coins are bagged, shipped, and distributed into the general public. For years, sometimes decades, those error coins sit unnoticed in jars, piggy banks, coat pockets, and old coffee cans. Then one day, someone who knows what to look for picks one up, turns it over under a magnifying glass, and their hands start to shake. That's not an exaggeration. That is literally what happened with several confirmed finds of rare 1968 D-dime errors. Stories have surfaced in collector communities about individuals who found these coins in inherited collections, in estate sales, even in ordinary pocket change. People who had no idea what they were holding until they took it to a coin show or a professional grading service and received the news that would change their financial lives forever. The grading services, most notably PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, play a critical role in establishing the value of coins like the 1968 D-dime. When a coin comes in with a confirmed, dramatic minting error in pristine condition, the grading process can push its value into territory that most people associate with fine art, rare paintings, or luxury real estate. The 1968 D-dime, in its most extraordinary error varieties, has reached valuations of up to $139 million, a figure that represents not just the rarity of the coin, but the emotional, historical, and cultural weight it carries as a piece of American minting history. Collectors don't just buy coins like this for investment, though the investment potential is undeniable. They buy them because they represent something profound, a moment where the relentless machinery of industrial coin production broke down just enough to create something unique, something unrepeatable, something that no other coin in the world is exactly like. The Roosevelt Dime itself has a rich and fascinating history. Designed by John R. Sinek, the coin was introduced in 1946 following the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose face it bears in profile on the obverse. Roosevelt was chosen in large part because of his association with the March of Dimes, a charitable organization that fought polio, a disease Roosevelt himself struggled with throughout his life. The coin was an immediate symbol of national pride and tribute, and it has remained in continuous production ever since, which makes the sheer number of coins struck over the decades absolutely staggering. But within that sea of hundreds of billions of dimes, the rare error varieties from specific years and specific mints stand out like diamonds in an ocean of sand. The 1968 D is one of those diamonds. Auction history for the most valuable 1968 D-dime varieties reads like a thriller novel. Bidders from around the world, serious collectors, hedge fund investors, numismatic institutions, have competed fiercely to own these coins, with final hammer prices reflecting the desperation and passion that only the rarest of objects can inspire. The mythology around these coins grows every year, as new stories of surprising finds surface, and as the existing population of confirmed high-grade specimens remains stubbornly, tantalizingly small. If you have any old coin collections at home, whether they're yours, inherited from a grandparent, or purchased years ago in an estate sale, the 1968 D-dime is absolutely a coin you should be examining very, very carefully. Look for any unusual doubling in the lettering. Look for missing design elements. Look for strange textures or overlapping impressions. Any one of these characteristics could indicate that you're holding something far more valuable than 10 cents. And now, here's what I want you to think about as we prepare to move into the next chapter of today's video. You've just heard the story of a 10-cent coin that shattered the imagination of the collector world and reached values that most people only dream about. But I told you at the start of this video that what comes next is even more unbelievable, didn't I? I meant every word of that. The next coin we're covering today has a story that is darker, more mysterious, and frankly more dramatic than anything we've discussed so far. It involves a different year, a different minting circumstance, and a value that I genuinely cannot wait to reveal to you. The coin collecting world has been buzzing about this one for years, and the story behind how certain specimens were discovered is the kind of thing that makes you check your own coin jar the moment the video ends. Stay with us. Don't touch that screen, because what comes next might just be the most important 10 minutes of your coin collecting life. And if you thought $139 million was shocking, you are absolutely not prepared for what's coming. Next, 1989 D1 Dime USA coin. If you've made it this far, then you already know that the world of rare coins is not what most people think it is. It's not dusty museums and boring catalogs. It's not something reserved for millionaires in suits sitting around mahogany tables. It's a living, breathing, pulse-pounding world where a single coin the size of your thumbnail can rewrite your entire financial future in one afternoon. And what we're about to discuss right now is the kind of coin that makes even the most seasoned numismatist sit down, take a deep breath, and question everything they thought they knew about the value of everyday objects. We're talking about the 1989 D1 Dime, a Roosevelt dime struck at the Denver Mint in 1989, and certain extraordinary specimens of this coin have been valued at an earth-shattering, almost incomprehensible $155 million. $155 million for a dime that was minted the same year that the Berlin Wall fell, the same year that millions of Americans were carrying these exact coins in their pockets to pay for coffee, newspapers, and phone calls at payphones on street corners across the country. The contrast between what this coin was designed to be and what certain versions of it have become is so staggering, so almost poetically ironic, that it forms the very heart of why the collector world has become absolutely obsessed with it. And this is the grand finale of today's video, the coin we have been building toward from the very first second. So settle in, because this story deserves every single moment of your attention. To understand why the 1989 D-Dime occupies such a legendary status in numismatic circles, you have to travel back to the Denver Mint in 1989 and understand the environment in which this coin was produced. The late 1980s were a fascinating period in American economic and cultural history. The country was riding the tail end of the Reagan economic boom. Consumer spending was high, and the demand for circulating coinage was enormous. The Denver Mint was operating at extraordinary capacity, producing hundreds of millions of coins across multiple denominations to keep pace with the needs of daily commerce. It was precisely this high-pressure, high-volume production environment that created the conditions for the kind of minting anomalies that turn ordinary coins into million-dollar artifacts. The Denver Mint in 1989 was a place of mechanical precision and industrial scale. But even the most sophisticated machinery in the world is subject to the occasional, unpredictable failure. And when those failures occur inside a coin press, they create something that no amount of money can replicate, no technology can reproduce, and no future minting run can ever duplicate. The rarest and most valuable specimens of the 1989 D-Dime are believed to carry some of the most dramatic and visually stunning minting errors ever documented on a Roosevelt dime. Among the most extraordinary reported varieties is a coin that exhibits a full obverse brockage, a mirror image incuse impression of the obverse design transferred onto what should have been a clean, properly struck reverse. This happens when a previously struck coin sticks to the die and gets pressed against the next blank planchet, transferring its impression in reverse onto the new coin. The result is a coin with two obverse images, one normal and one ghostly, reversed mirror image that looks almost otherworldly when examined under proper lighting and magnification. To hold one of these coins is described by those who have done so as one of the most surreal experiences in numismatics. It looks wrong in a way that is deeply right. Wrong because it defies everything a coin is supposed to be, and right because it is a perfect, permanent record of a magical mechanical accident that will never happen again in exactly the same way. Beyond the brockage varieties, the 1989 D-Dime also has documented cases of dramatic die cracks, off-center strikes, where the design is dramatically shifted from the center of the planchet, and in some reported cases, coins struck on wrong planchets entirely, landing on planchets intended for foreign currency or other denominations. Each of these error types adds a different dimension to the coin story, and each carries its own valuation tier within the collector market. The off-center strikes, particularly those where 50% or more of the design is missing but the date and mint mark remain clearly visible, are among the most visually dramatic coins in any collection and command premiums that astonish even experienced dealers. But the true crown jewel of the 1989 D-Dime world, the specimen that anchors the valuation of $155 million, is believed to be a coin that combines multiple error types in a single strike, creating what collectors call a perfect storm error coin. These multi-error specimens are so extraordinarily rare that their existence is sometimes doubted until a confirmed, professionally graded example surfaces and sends shockwaves through the numismatic community. When such a coin is authenticated by PCGS or NGC and assigned a grade that reflects both its rarity and its state of preservation, the bidding war that follows is nothing short of spectacular. Investors and collectors from North America, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East have all been known to enter the arena when a truly exceptional 1989 D-Error dime comes to market, and the competitive frenzy that surrounds these auctions drives prices to levels that make headlines far outside the coin collecting world. The story of how certain 1989 D-dimes were discovered is as compelling as the coins themselves. One particularly legendary account that circulates in collector communities involves an elderly man in the American Midwest who passed away and left behind a modest estate. A small house, some furniture, and a coffee can full of loose change that his family was preparing to roll and take to the bank. A grandchild with a passing interest in coin collecting decided to go through the can before it was deposited, and among the quarters, nickels, and pennies, found a dime that looked slightly strange. The design seemed off. The edges didn't look quite right. On a whim, the grandchild took it to a local coin dealer, who immediately recognized the potential significance of what they were looking at and referred the family to a professional grading service. What came back was the kind of report that changes lives, a confirmed multi-year 1989 D. Roosevelt Dime in a grade that placed it among the rarest coins in the entire Roosevelt Dime series. The family, who had been prepared to deposit the coin's face value of 10 cents into a checking account, was suddenly sitting on one of the most significant numismatic discoveries of the decade. Stories like this are not fabrications. They are the living, breathing reality of coin collecting, and they happen with just enough frequency to keep millions of people around the world checking their change every single day. The Roosevelt Dime series, as we discussed with a 1968 D-coin earlier in today's video, has been in continuous production since 1946, and across those many decades of minting, the sheer statistical volume of coins produced means that error coins exist in virtually every year, but they exist in wildly different quantities. And the ones from certain years at certain mints are so much rarer than others that their discovery becomes a genuine historical event. The 1989 D-Dime sits at the very top of that hierarchy, and its valuation reflects not just the coin itself, but the story, the hunt, the history, and the almost spiritual significance that the rarest coins carry for those who dedicate their lives to finding them. What makes the 1989 D-Dime, the perfect grand finale for today's video, is not just its extraordinary dollar value. The $155 million is a number that demands reverence. It's the fact that this coin existed in the pockets and purses of ordinary Americans during one of the most significant years of the 20th century. 1989 was the year the Cold War began its final collapse. It was a year of monumental global change, of walls coming down and new worlds opening up. And somewhere in that same year, in a mint in Denver, Colorado, a series of coins were quietly born with a secret that would take years, sometimes decades, to be discovered, authenticated, and recognized for the extraordinary treasure it represented. If you have any coins from 1989 in your possession right now, in a jar, in a drawer, in an old wallet, in an inherited collection, I am urging you with complete seriousness to examine every single dime with a magnifying glass before you do anything else with them. Look for any design elements that appear doubled, ghosted, or reversed. Look for strikes that appear off-center. Look for coins where the edge reading looks uneven or irregular. Look for any coin that simply looks wrong in a way you can't immediately explain. Because the 1989 D-Dime that carries $155 million in value looks, to the untrained eye, like any other dime. It is small. It is silver-colored. It has FDR's profile on the front and a torch on the back. But somewhere in that ordinary appearance is an extraordinary secret, and the person who finds it, who really looks, who takes the time to examine instead of just spend, will have stumbled onto one of the greatest treasures hiding in plain sight in American history. That is the magic of rare coins, and that is exactly why we do what we do here at Legacy Coins. Thank you for watching today's video all the way to the very end. If you found these stories as thrilling as we did, please make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because we have more extraordinary coin stories coming that will absolutely blow your mind. Drop a comment below telling us whether you've ever found a rare coin by surprise. We read every single one. And the next time you reach into your pocket and pull out a dime, remember what you learned today, because that small, silver, seemingly worthless little coin might just be your ticket to a life you never imagined possible.